Hi, I'm AK.
And I'm Lia.
And this is our channel where we talk about property investing, business, and working together as a couple.
So in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of a cash purchase versus purchasing with a mortgage when it comes to property investing.
Now in this video, we're going to be using the example of this property that we've just found on Rightmove that is on the market at £190,000 and will rent for around about £900 a month. Now this property is in Oldbury, which is near Birmingham.
And there will be people watching this video who have the full 190k in their bank account, which they could outright buy this property tomorrow if they wanted to. There will also be people with, say, £50,000 in their bank account that could afford to put down a 25% deposit on the property and mortgage the rest if they wanted to. But which is better?
And that is exactly what we are going to be going into today. We're going to be looking at the differences, the pros and cons between buying a property outright or using a mortgage as a way to further grow your portfolio and make more money in the long run.
So let's get into it.
Now, before we run you through the numbers, let's take a look at some of the pros for a cash purchase.
Number one, cash buyers are more attractive to sellers because there are fewer delays. So you might get an offer accepted straight away because sellers love speed. So if you're trying to buy a property and there's several other people interested, they've put their offers in, you've put your offers in, the fact that you're a cash buyer could sway the vendor in your favour.
You could potentially snap up property a lot faster when you pay with cash as well, because in terms of solicitors, there is a lot less work to do when there's no mortgage involved, essentially, which means that the whole entire process can run smoother and faster.
Number three, it's easier to buy a property at auction with cash. So auctions are great places to pick up properties, often properties below market value too. And whilst it is possible to buy auction properties with a mortgage, you'll need to have all your finances in place before you bid. Whereas if you're a cash buyer, there's a lot more freedom there for you to pick up a deal quickly.
Number four, paying cash, of course, means that you will own the property outright. Therefore, there won't be any monthly mortgage payments that you have to worry about. The rent that you receive is pretty much mostly profit.
Now, some of the cons of a cash purchase. You need a significant sum of money to buy a property outright. Not many of us have just got 190k sitting around in a bank account that we could just drop into a property. And when we started out, we certainly didn't have that much money up front.
Point number two is that unless you have tons and tons of cash, you're going to find it very hard to scale a property portfolio. Now, the thing with property is that it's a fantastic asset class. However, it's very capital heavy, meaning that unless you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions in the bank, you are going to find it quite difficult to scale that as a business.
Without using leverage.
Yeah. And this really is the main reason why professional investors use mortgages to acquire multiple properties.
So before AK runs you through a deep dive of the numbers, let's go through the pros and cons of buying with a mortgage. So for the pros, mortgaging means you can purchase more properties and build a larger portfolio. And AK is going to show you how you could use the same 190k to buy 3 investment properties using mortgages instead of putting all of that money into just the one property.
Now the main con is that you will always owe the full amount of the mortgage back at the end of the term. Whatever your monthly mortgage comes out to, remember that this is the interest payment. So you are not chipping away all the time at the capital that you owe back on the property. Now this can scare a lot of people because in 25 years time when the mortgage ends, you will still owe the full amount that you originally borrowed. But this is where having a plan comes in. Properties on average double in value every 10 years. So it is likely that in 25 years, you will have more than enough equity to pay off the mortgage debt. The theory is that the growth in the equity covers the initial liability.
And the reason why you said 25 years there is just because often a mortgage term could be like 25 years or 30 years. It wasn't just a random number that you've plucked out of the air.
Absolutely.
Another con, which we have mentioned a lot in previous videos, if you're a subscriber of ours, you will have heard this before, is that mortgage interest relief is no longer available. So landlords that are buying in their personal name can no longer add interest as tax relief, like as an expense, which comes off of their tax bill, which means a higher gross income. Now, this can push some landlords into a higher tax bracket, which could in turn make their buy-to-lets not very profitable. And this is why we say always do the numbers before you apply for a buy-to-let mortgage and speak to a tax advisor to find out what kind of implications you could be in for. We've got a video all about buying property in your personal name versus a limited company if you're interested in more on that subject.
Now I'm going to demonstrate exactly what I mean when we purchase a property cash versus purchasing it via a mortgage. So we're going to purchase this beautiful little property here in cash, and as we discussed, this is going to be £190,000 to purchase, and we are buying all of this, so there is no mortgage on this property. Now, having done some research within the area, we know that the rent is around about £900 a month. So in order to work out how much rent we would make per year, we would simply times £900 by 12 months, giving us an annual rent of £10,800. Now, to work out the return on investment, we are going to use a simple calculation. So we're going to take the total rent per year that we make, which is £10,800, and we're going to divide that by the amount of money that we have invested in order to purchase this property, which was £190,000. We're going to times that by 100, which gives us 5.6% return. Now let's look at this property over a 10-year period in terms of how much equity we can gain and how much cash flow it will produce us. So every 10 years it is said that a property will double in value. So we purchased it here at £190,000, and in 10 years time this property may be worth £380,000, meaning that we have £190,000 of additional equity in the home and a total of £380,000 total equity. In terms of cash flow, £900 times 12 is £10,800, times that by 10 gives us £108,000. If we were to purchase this property at £190,000 and we kept it for 10 years, we could generate £108,000 over that period with a potential for £380,000 in equity in this property. Now let's look at the leverage model, whereby we purchase this property using a mortgage in order to scale our business and create more equity and more cash flow. Here's my horrendous drawing of a little bicep. So 25% of this property is going to be a deposit and 75% is going to be on a mortgage. Now this property is still £190,000, but we're going to put a deposit down of 25%, which is £47,500. The mortgage at 75% is going to be £142,500. So now let's look at the numbers. Rent. Remember from the last example, the rent was £900 a month. So 900 times 12 gives us 10,800. Now remember with this one, because we're mortgaging it, we have to remove the mortgage costs in order to get our cash flow figure. Now just a slight caveat, we're not taking into consideration management, we're just giving you an overview of the high level numbers. So mortgage, now we're sitting at around about 4.7 to 5% in terms of the interest rates currently on a buy-to-let. So I'm going to use 5% as this example. 5% of the mortgage, which was £142,500, is £7,125 per annum, which works out to £593.75 per month. In terms of working out the cash flow or the monthly profit, it is our rent minus our monthly mortgage, which is £593.75, gives us a monthly cash flow of £306.25. So in terms of working out our return on investment, this will be our monthly figure of cash flow. Remember, it's cash flow because we're looking at net. So 3675, which is 306 times 12, over the money that we have invested. Now remember, the money we invested is 25% there, which is 47,500, which gives us a return on investment of 7.7%. Now, where this becomes super interesting is when we look at what this looks like over a 10-year period. Now remember what I said in the last one. House prices on average double every 10 years. Now remember, we're putting a 47,500 deposit on each one and we're purchasing them at £190,000. So in 10 years time, if we're using the theory that each one of these doubles in value, then each property is going to be worth 380. Now where this becomes super interesting is this. Over 10 years, we're going to have debt on these properties. Remember, the 75% times 3 of £427,500 500. However, our properties over 10 years have the potential to be worth £1,140,000. Okay, that's the approximate valuation, and that's the debt. So what does that mean? It means that there is potential here to have an equity stake at £712,000. Let's look at the cash flow. Cash flow equals 306.25. Remember, the monthly rent times 12, which gives us this figure here, 3,675. We're going to times that by 10, which gives us £110,250. You can see in this example that not only do we make more cash flow in the long term, our equity or our potential equity within our portfolio is significantly increased. Meaning that when it comes to refinance these at the end of the term, there's plenty of equity in order for us to pay off those existing mortgages and continue building our portfolio. Or we could release some equity as well to further build our portfolio and make even more cash flow.
Well, now we hope this video was helpful when thinking about leverage and how you can use one pot of money to potentially grow your income over a long period of time. Please let us know if there is anything else you want to see from us on our channel.
And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to hit that subscribe button because it really helps us out. And we'll see you in the next one.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.